I call the Lewis Board of Public Works Finance Committee meeting to order on today, June 22 at 10 a.m. That's somebody coming in. I guess it would only be Bob Heffernan.
Did I close this?
No.
No, it's open. It's public.
Okay. I got you.
Welcome to everybody. Thanks for showing up again. A bigger warm welcome to our Deputy Mayor, Khalil Saliba, who is now ex officio.
You didn't tell him that he needs to bring the donuts to the meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot a few.
The first one you have to feed us.
Yeah. I will make adjustments next time.
Our members are here, myself, Robin Davis, Kimberly Gallier, Khalil Saliba, Mike Hogan, Calvin Jaber, and Carolyn Jones. Bob Heffernan is away. And we do have a quorum, and it is 10:04 by the time I got through that. First item, review of the minutes from last month, 5/18.
Yeah, I heard he did that.
So there's only a couple things that was actually brought to my attention by Richard. Under number 3, Carolyn is Jones, not Joan. So we need to add an S.
Thank you. I clicked that too.
And then Mike Hogan is made and should be crossed out. Mike Hogan seconded. The motion carried. That was the only issues.
Yeah, I put one too. That was just my name.
Any other items for discussion? We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Carries unanimously. Well, almost, because, well, yeah, unanimously with the quorum.
Right.
Item 4, discussion and possible recommendation about transferring money to Fulton.
So I did a little recap here on 4A, and I remembered to put these on here and everything, guys. We're doing things. Fulton operating account balance has been growing over the past 2 years. We had the recommendation to decrease the amount held in the operating account due to concerns about the protection and the safety of the money. When Fulton heard that we were trying to move money out, they offered us a interest-bearing government account for 3.65% interest, which is the Fed rate minus 10, to prevent the funds being moved out. The funds that would be transferred to Fulton are with UBS, the money market. We earn about 3.54% on it. And
3.65, was that fixed for a certain period of time?
it is just Fed minus 10.
But
They were going to do a fixed,
Yeah.
and then we like the idea of always knowing what it's going to be.
Yeah. It's not fluctuating. Yeah.
Well, I thought they were going to do a fix for a certain period of time, like 6 months or something, but
I think that was the initial discussions, and then they were going to reassess it. But then
You're
We
saying
started
it's
talking
locked
about-
in at that.
but then we were talking about, well, what's going to happen after that 6 months? Are you going to drop it down
okay.
less than the 10 points?
So it's based on margin.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about the funds and the account, they can protect our money in 2 different ways. Collateralized with Federal Home Loan Bank letter of credit. That's what they currently do.
Mhm.
And Intrify. This is a pass-through deposit insurance coverage with FDIC. I did the print off from FDIC's website of the pass-through deposit insurance coverage.
Which is item 4B.
4C. For
How many-
the
When they did the money gets split into, so how many sub accounts?
however much it takes for it to be 247,000 each account. So we're under the $250,000 FDIC limit.
Okay.
So 4B is the Intrify coming back,
Mhm.
and then the 4C is coming from FDIC.gov about the pass-through insurance, which
It's
Intrify would be.
a 365.
Um, and then I put here the staff recommendation would be to transfer the money from the money market account to Fulton into IntraFi protection. It's FDI insured. It has a higher interest rate. We already have an established relationship with Fulton. The funds can be available instantaneously. They are responsive, and they have the local branch right here in Lewis. And it also eases admin burden if we are going to do the operating account max and minimum
What
for
was that rate
automatic.
running at before you decided to do this? What was the rate prior to 3.6?
3%.
Thanks.
I'd like to point out too that the pass-through, the FSC pass-through insurance coverage, second page, on this 4 item, it specifically addresses potential companies that place their deposit funds in different banks to help customers maximize their deposit insurance coverage.
Oh,
I mean, that specifically, I think that this is.
okay.
What's the magnitude of money that's being removed from UBS?
8 million.
And so that will be added to the amount of money at Fulton, which is what?
Right now we have about 3 million in there.
And will all that money get that 3.6?
Yes. So if we transfer the new money, the money that's in there and the new money will get
Because the
that.
money that's in there right now is less than 3.6, right?
Say again.
The money that's in there right now
Yes.
is less than.
Yes. They get
3%.
3%.
I said 3%.
Okay. All right.
And what's the answer to the question is, it's too much money in one place.
If that's the case, we also have that problem with UBS that we have.
We had that. Yes. Been the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
we are putting it through the IntraFi to protect our money.
right, so that's
Through
the,
FDIC.
that's the risk element.
Well, you
that
weren't
we
getting any
are
money with
attending
UBS.
to.
Is there a penalty from transferring that 8 million out of UBS?
I would think that there is not,
Okay.
but that is a great question. And that might be, if there's a penalty
So it's
for
penalty.
moving all the money.
Transfer.
From UBS to.
UBS.
But
Mhm.
if there is, then it might be a
Mhm.
progressive
Would
move.
there be typically though?
No, not in the money market.
No, okay.
But it doesn't, you can ask, it's,
Can't hurt.
But this, that's not moving all of the money from UBS, is it?
Correct. We're still gonna have the reserve account there,
Which is what amount?
about 10 million.
And why is it there?
It's still a lot.
What's it invested in?
That is the asset allocation, reserve
For
account
That are generated by the current
for
investment
UB.
policy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
Okay.
UBS
There's 10 million there, but
advises.
what's an investment portfolio look like in this 10 million? What's it invested in?
It's gonna be mostly in treasury bonds, and then it does have some stock, some CDs,
So longer
Okay.
terms,
but it's mostly treasury bonds, though,
5 year, 3 years.
generally 1 to 3 years.
there's an investment policy statement that was in your package. And it's very generally written.
Mhm.
And this is, I think the next section is going to be, we need to talk over the investment policy statement. But UBS is currently working within the confines of the investment policy statement as stated now. Can I make 2 suggestions or 2? So first off, I was a little bit hesitant on this IntraFi. And the reason I was I had seen over a long period of time where Wall Street or other investment type banks will try to come up with interesting schemes to get around the intentions of different government policies.
Mhm.
And normally they get away with it for a long time until we get into a financial crisis, and then something blows up and then the thing becomes a political football. You know, the 2008, for example, 2009 financial crisis showed a bunch of those things, particularly the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all these implicit guarantees that all of a sudden
We're not.
realized people realized they weren't explicit guarantees, they were input, you know.
Mhm.
So with the FDIC stuff, with this FDIC thing or this pass-through insurance process. I was worried we had another one of these things where someone had come up with a creative idea and everything's fine until it
The
blows
moment,
up. And then everybody says, well, wait a minute. But the FDIC itself actually has the material to do this up on their website. So in my mind, it is blessed by, it wasn't sort of IntraFi as a public company
it's blessed by it.
trying to get around, so that got me a lot more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things though, that if you go on the FDIC website, and Kim had a sheet here, my thing got cut off. It might be 4C. Okay. There's 3 criteria that have to be met for this to actually work if the bank goes under. And the FDIC doesn't review whether your bank is doing it appropriately until it goes under. And then it will look at, whether they met all the requirements or not.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the requirements sort of caught my eye a little bit, and that's on page 4.7. And it's apropos to the conversation we just had about the fixed interest rate. There's a page number, bottom right. So I'm on page 4.7. And then if you look at on this one here, Carol,
On 4C,
that one in your hand now.
Yeah, I know, but I don't.
Is this the one? Yeah.
Not,
Yeah, you're
there's no
okay.
page
Four-
to it.
four-
Page 4.7.
Bottom,
Oh,
I'm up
okay.
to
I got you, I
about
got you, I got you.
3%, it's 3%.
Four.
No, Carolyn may not have the page numbers on her.
Yeah.
Where's four?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Small technicalities.
So the top paragraph, it starts off with the first requirement above will not be satisfied. Does everybody see that?
Mhm.
Okay. So one of the big distinguishing features here in their approval of this, if your bank goes under, is whether you have a debtor-creditor relationship, which is on that second line,
Mm-hmm.
or whether you have an agent-principal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody made a boo-boo and it's being perceived as a debit-credit relationship, you will not be covered. It has to be an agent-principal relationship. And then they go down a couple more lines and it says, I'm just going to read this out loud here for you. So this is right after the agent-principal relationship. It says the creation of a debtor-creditor relationship, and that's what we don't want,
Mm-hmm.
may occur if the purported agent has changed the terms of the insured depository institutions, that's the IDI, a deposit contract, such as the terms relating to the maturity dates of the interest rates. For example, if a customer of a deposit broker is promised by a third party that he or she will earn a 3% return on his or her deposit when at the IDI, and if the IDI is only paying 2%, the third party would be a debtor in an independent obligation to pay 3%. If you go down to the next paragraph, in such a scenario, the deposits at the insured depository institution would not be eligible for pass-through coverage to the customer. The way I interpret that, and I'm not a lawyer, it's a lot of legalese, but I think what I'm hearing is if Fulton was to promise you a fixed interest rate, you now have a debtor-creditor relationship with them.
Right.
What they want Fulton to do is to charge you a fee to do this. So in my mind, when they say Fed funds minus 10, the minus 10 is the fee. The 10 basis points they're skimming off the top is a fee, but that should change over time. I think as I read this, if Fulton came to you and said, we're going to pay you 4% on these assets, I think that's flips this thing from an agent principal to a debtor creditor.
Damn sure.
But I'm not a lawyer, and I get a little worried about some of these technicalities. And I'm also a little worried that the FDIC doesn't try to figure this stuff out until they look at the contracts that Fulton goes under.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The second thing, so anyway, just to stop this for a second, I'm happy that it seems to be a floating rate with a fee off the top, not a fixed. They're going to pay you a fixed rate.
But keep in mind, they also have the same Cedars product as well that's been in existence for 20 plus years, which is fixed rate.
Yeah, could be. What I would say,
Yeah.
and no doubt about that, what I would say is the FDIC has never looked at it unless Fulton's actually declared bankruptcy and they go in receivership. That's what worries me a little bit. So anyway, that's just my view.
No.
The second thing, right now, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later, but I want to throw this out to kind of get us thinking about it. In my mind, there's two viable places for us to park these highly liquid funds. There is this IntraFi, which I like. The more I'm looking at it, the more I like it. I'm just a little worried about these technicalities. But it's the IntraFi. The second is a government money market mutual fund. That currently is where Kim has $8 million parked at UBS. That is a highly used liquidity management tool by corporations, banks, everybody else. It's personal. I use it myself personally. We use it at Children's Beach House. So I'm going to recommend, my recommendation was that we give Kim two options. The IntraFi, so she can leave the money at the bank and earn whatever the interest rate is, minus 10 basis points, which is the fee, or we can stick it in a government money market mutual fund. The decision, I think, should be made more by Kim, the finance director,
Based on,
simply what rate I'm going to be earning on those two. Right now, it might be that the money market mutual fund earns a little bit less than the IntraFi. That's fine. Sometimes it might be that it earns more.
we just gotta weigh that.
It feels to me like this committee should say these are two viable, highly risk-free, widely used alternatives for cash management. So let's just keep the two, and Kim will sort of decide from time to time. Instead of this committee deciding, well, we're going to move it today and next month, that's not really the role. Yeah.
And you brought up a point that Calvin also emailed me and Richard about of how the investment policy reads. It says that it should be admin discretion on how to invest as long as it's following these rules.
Right.
Well, fine.
And
Fine.
then I agreed that it should be like a conversation of, is that okay that I'm moving, like these are your guidelines and you can move, or should I still bring it back to the finance committee just for prudency? Or
My view is we should be micromanaging.
I think
we're not micromanaging.
That's where I'm going.
The policy needs to set forth the parameters for which they can.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a thing as
they
too
can
much.
manage money.
Yes.
And whether it's two, whether it's three, the policy sets forth those, and they have the freedom. Otherwise, if we can't rely on them to do it, then we got the wrong people.
Yeah.
You got that right.
Quite
I
frankly.
agree, 1,000%.
So I think the ask right now is whether IntraFi is a allowable option for these assets. You're not asking whether you can move 8 million over. You're asking whether that's a viable option. Then you'll decide
Based
how
on
much.
One thing we did ask for too is that an opinion, a legal opinion, when they are on pass through, because the company should have, when they first launched this with Cedars back in 20 plus years ago, they should have gone to the FDIC and said, I need a legal opinion with this pass through. They would have got that either from the FDIC or would have had their counsel opine on that, and probably would have got it from the FDIC. So they have it. I know they have it. I mean, any company would have gotten this out before they launched this product. So I'd like to have that legal opinion, wherever they got it from, and because that would lay out, quite frankly, in order to put that legal opinion together, they would have to lay out exactly how this thing operates.
Yes.
Each piece of it and where it's going, how it's titled, in order to come back to the legal opinion that says, yes, you comply with pass-through rules, because we understand how this works. We talk to the FDIC. We understand how this needs to be captioned, how it needs to be titled, and we've looked at what you're doing, and it all complies. So that would be comfortable for me to have.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And they lay out in this document here 3 things that had to be met for you to get the insurance, and
the opinion would have gone through that. Well, yeah, this came out in 2010, so this probably the legal opinion probably predates this, which they have, unless they updated it recently, because this new product they had came out in 2013, 14, 15.
Yeah.
The deposit product, not the CD product. They might have just we just need to get that.
Yeah, I'm a huge risk person, so I'm good to have as many eyes on as possible. The thing that scared me a little bit was when it said the FDIC will never look at the relationship until the bank goes in receivership, and it'll tell you whether you get insurance or not. So
it's all about books and records. When it comes to that, it's all about books and records, house titles, which is why it's important that we get that opinion and make sure that they're doing it the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
In order to get that pass-through coverage.
Yeah.
Okay. So the legal opinion, And then as long as that passes, to move the money.
I wonder, just on that legal opinion, I wonder if they could weigh in on this notion of this debtor creditor
Yeah,
relationship,
but
and
I
whether
do
it's
have
fixed
that.
rate, you're gonna run a fixed rate like a bond, or whether you're gonna.
Well, that just stated in the opinion, hopefully. We'll just pass it out to us, and then probably make sure that other things.
Yeah.
So I can point it out to you.
All right.
So after the money is moved, we get, how does additional money decided which direction it goes? And
That'll be,
at the moment, anything with the reserve policy goes to, by definition, goes to UBS.
yes,
And all else now will have the ability to go to Bolton, either in the, I don't know, the bank, the 1.5 million or the 8 plus or minus,
Uh-huh.
which is management's decision to make. But then just somehow to document here, this is what we did, as opposed to, oh yeah, you're now on automatic.
Yeah.
So that the financial committee has some feedback of how things are going.
that's,
Didn't they be laid out in the investment policy about long-term funds, where you can invest those and what you need from operating perspective?
that is what we're trying to establish.
So wouldn't that be handled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the investment policy?
And it is in the investment policy now, but it's very hard to read and it seems to be semi-inconsistent. So fixing this investment policy is going to answer all these.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Probably just throw out the investment policy and start over.
Yeah, really.
So we move to item 5.
Mhm.
Did we have to make a vote on anything?
Well, do you want to get the legal? I mean, I don't feel like we have a super sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Kim's got the stuff sitting, the money sitting in a very liquid, very low risk strategy. So if you want to get this, I would be very supportive of just getting this I dotted and T crossed before we vote finally. Yeah.
Okay.
They have it on the shelf. They have to have it on the shelf.
Yeah. Is that something that I can email and everyone just kind of gives a thumb up, or wait until the next meeting?
Bring it back. Okay.
No, you can't.
You're trying, but that's.
Yeah,
Yes, I can do
I
that
started
too.
to say no.
Question is this contingent upon the legal opinion? I don't think it is, right? It's a nice to have. They should have it. I'd be surprised if they didn't have it, quite frankly. But I'm not sure it's contingent.
That's up to you guys. I think Mike would be more comfortable voting with it. That's the sense I'm getting.
Mhm.
But
Well, you brought it up, Calvin, but I actually don't. It would make me feel even a little bit better.
I like to have it myself,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure it's contingent upon it. If they don't have it, I would ask them to get one.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, if
But I
they
would
don't
prefer
have it, that
surprise.
makes you kind of step back a little.
The other thing is, I don't know who we're really contracting with. If we're contracting with Intrafy or we're contracting with Fulton, or is it a double agent situation where agents Fulton's the initial agent, and then Intrafy's the second agent, and then the banks that were,
That's a good
the
point.
third agent. Like, is this a multi-agent? You know, it gets kind of confusing.
You know,
Yeah,
That's a good point, though.
the answer to that would be the contract. Can you get a copy of the contract they have with the customer? So if like us, they should get a contract, we put $10 million in there, we're signing
Yeah,
on.
if we-
They're-
Yeah, if we switch
They're
over to
certifying
Intrafy, I'm
somehow.
sure there's some kind of,
You got that right.
yeah.
So
No.
it would be in the deposit agreement.
See what that contract looks like.
Mhm.
But to me, it sounds like Intrafy is its own company, that they have their system. Yeah, they have their network that they distribute the money to, and then it always comes back to the originating bank.
Well, I see as the founder of this thing back in Cedars, it's thought about. They provide software for banks. Came up with this 20+ years ago.
Okay. Moving on to number 5, review and discussion about current investment policy and possible changes for creation of new investment policy.
Okay, so last month we were talking about the operating account having a maximum and to have everything else in an investment account. When we started to do that red line to change that, we just kind of decided that why don't we just look at this thing as a whole to redo the whole thing and to pick out some issues. So I first wanted to start out with a
5B.
5B
Okay.
of a map of what's actually happening and what's going into each account. So the
5B?
5B, yeah.
Yeah, no, I have it. I just wanted to ask clear.
So our operating account was with Fulton. It's all unrestricted money that it can be used for any need. Our other account for our liquidity account, that's with the UBS money market right now. There's restricted and unrestricted funds in there. What's restricted right now is the PFAS money, which is a class action lawsuit that we're getting money from that settlement.
I don't know that. Yeah, but there it is.
PFAS is the forever chemicals, like DuPont, 3M.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
But
And we
we're,
go in
but
these
we're
very
a
dynamic-
plaintiff.
We are collecting money.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have our reserve account that's also with UBS. That's invested in treasury stocks, cash and cash equivalents. And then this has restricted and unrestricted. For the restricted, we have the electric deposits that are 100% refundable and the impact fees that are collected upon connection, and it must be used for capital improvements. So I just made this to map out what we currently have.
Mhm.
Kim, it might be helpful too, because you've already done this, but the reserves right now are, so under this giant bucket are about 10 million.
Yes,
Yeah, that's good.
And the liquidity under this bucket are about 8 million.
about 8 million.
Where's the 10 million? Sorry.
Where is it?
Reserve,
That's in UBS.
all the way to the right.
Oh.
So reserve 10 million for UBS.
Liquidity is 8 million,
And that's currently with UBS.
and the operating is currently 3 million.
So we have 18 million with UBS.
Yes,
And how much do they operate?
about 3 million.
And just to be clear, according to our projections in the financial report, those numbers are going to be rising at current rates and usage. So Robin's got tons of money to do all sorts of great things.
Yeah.
Fix streets, good lighting.
You got it.
Fix those pipes.
You got it. From what location?
So then with 5C, I worked with Mike on this of working out different funds to invest in with the different accounts that we have and actually breaking it down.
Short-term, long-term.
Yeah. So you got your short term with the money that you don't want to risk and that you may need to call upon at any time. And then you're risking more with the longer term planned components.
Yeah, define what the risk means. Should we be in equities at all? So, it's a question.
That is a question.
There's, in some of these things, there actually isn't a right or wrong. It's organizationally dependent, and we could be as safe as possible, or we can put some money at risk. I'm not a big advocate for the asset allocation strategies for this type of organization, and we'll talk about that. But right now, they're being used, and they are in the investment policy statement, so that's why it's laid out like this.
And then with this chart, I started taking a stab at rewriting
This chart, see?
C. Yeah. I started taking a stab at rewriting the policy because if we were to redline the current policy, it's going to be a mess. to try to read through that.
But I just,
Mhm.
before, on that last page, the green highlight is its own section or part of investment, but people know what the green colors are.
Oh, yeah, these are my questions. I highlighted them with my questions.
On 5B.
Yes,
Yeah, but it's the last.
on the last page.
Of just defining what green, yellow,
Oh, I see
and
what you're
red,
saying.
yellow with red mean.
Means.
Yeah, as I was writing it, I was having more questions.
Yeah.
So I highlighted the green of if that required reporting to board, should that be its own section or should that be under expectations of investor? And the yellow highlight of whether you should be defining things or add a definition section in the back.
Yeah, definitions are always good at policy.
Yeah, so like for example, under section 2, under the draft for expectations of investor, the board's funds shall be invested based upon the prudent investor rule.
Mhm.
In our current policy, we do not define what that means.
I
And
think it's a term of art, though. I mean, you can go to.
yeah, so
Mike
that
was all about that.
yeah, should that be broken down of act in the best interests, et cetera, or just you know what it means?
You can extreme it out if you want to.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things I've noticed in this, you'll notice the Intrafi mentions something called the Cash Policy Board. It's the second page in an Intrafi piece. And in our investment policy statement, it also mentions this Cash Policy Investment Board. I think it's a state of Delaware commission. I don't know what the right word is. And I think we should probably figure out, just make sure we know what that
Who
is.
they are.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe just to show the flow, and I could have done this over the weekend. I just chose not to search through the statement folders. But you'll notice on the back of this, it's the last page, it says the Cash Management Policy Board. And that
That was 4B.
that board is also referred to in the investment
4B.
policy statement.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm bringing that up is because it's a little bit like this prudent man. There actually is a legal document on prudent man rule. And I don't know whether it differs for governments or not. It's probably under the state of Delaware.
Yeah.
So making reference to that. But making reference to that prudent, it's not something like we know it if we see it. There actually is a rule, and we should know it and we should have it. Whether we actually physically write it into the thing or whether we just refer to it.
Yeah.
I probably would say refer to it in the sense that it may evolve and change over time. And so.
It's the creature of the state, right? State code.
Yeah.
Yes.
But obviously, we're not doing anything to violate state, so we need to just understand
Mhm.
what's
Maybe just qualify that what it is, cash management, whatever the key word is.
Yeah.
And then in parentheses, say where you find it.
Yeah.
So that it's not just, oh, we looked it up, we know what it is, it's out there someplace.
Mhm.
Just to, in the hereafter, somebody says, well, what the heck was this?
And then also to that point that I didn't highlight everything of if you're defining category of funds, transaction funds, should I be doing a definition for section 4A, transaction funds, collection and disbursement accounts to meet routine obligations? Should I just say transaction funds and then the definition is in the back?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So they don't have to keep saying it.
So those are the kind of questions that I was finding
An
of.
easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I think it's critical to define terms.
Sure it
Right
is.
up front, because put everyone on the same footing, if you will.
No, it's sheet of music.
The
Put
definition
everybody on the same sheet of music. That's footy.
Delaware cash.
Right. Okay. I've had you on.
different adage, same meaning.
Definitions are key to
Yeah,
everything.
it is.
So
It
that-
is.
Yeah.
Definitely is.
What they-
I've unfortunately had the displeasure of writing multiple investment policy statements, and it's not a great. It's not fun.
Ugh.
My suggestion would be maybe to go back to 5C,
Mhm.
and
And what?
it feels to me like this group should sort of define with Kim what we're trying to accomplish here. There's a lot on this page, and that Kim can go back and kind of wordsmith it, or, you know, kind of figure out how to wrap the language around it.
Mhm.
But can I spend a minute just to
Yeah.
go through this? Okay. So there's three large pools of funds that we deal with. There's the transaction funds, number one. You know, that's the stuff that's like a Fulton.
Mhm.
You got to meet your day-to-day payroll and everything else.
Exactly.
Number two, you've got these reserve funds. So we actually have reserve policies. We have an obligation to have assets in our capital reserve and in our operating reserve. So Kim and I broke out those two areas, capital and operating.
Mhm.
There is an argument that they could be invested differently, and we should talk about that. There's also something called a deposit reserve, and Kim can
That it's
elucidate on
the,
what that is.
yeah, it's the electric deposits that come in when customers open up new accounts,
Oh,
depending on their credit checks. And for commercial customers,
you just hold it.
yeah,
Okay.
for
I got
commercial,
you.
we hold it
The
until they
new
close.
customers coming in.
Yeah, for commercial, we hold it until they close, or for residential, it's so many on-time payments
Oh, I see.
that
Okay.
will refund it.
So, and then there's these things called special purpose funds that pop up. Kim has already talked about the PFAS fund. There's also recently the ARPA funds. We actually had them at the Children's Beach House as well. But these may come and go. They may have a
Well, the
specific
fund
use.
comes and goes.
The what?
Well, the ARPA's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my point is that, so you got, at least in the nonprofit world, we've got these things called board designated funds. So in this case, it'd be the operating reserves and the deposit reserves and the capital reserves.
Okay.
And then you've got these special purpose funds that sort of pop up from time to time.
Mhm.
They may be temporary, you know, they, whatever.
Yeah.
So you've got, and then what we did across the top here was sort of say, well, what are the different ways you could reasonably invest these? So just to be the most simple, if we look at line number one, the transaction funds, we just had this conversation, but if we approve the FDIC insured, that's the IntraFi, that would be a check mark. And if we approve the government money market mutual fund as also being a viable option, that's a check mark.
Mhm.
And Kim, in the investment policy statement, when writing up the transaction fund component of it, would sort of make reference to those are the two viable options.
Mhm.
When we go down to the reserve funds, now let's start off at the operating reserves. If you actually look at what the operating, there's four formulas that make up the operating reserves, and they're actually included in our financial report. They're specifically laid out. But if you go to line number 6, one of them is self-insurance. The board has asked that we have $1 million set aside for self-insurance. Line number 5 is insurance deductible. The board has also asked that we have a reserve to cover insurance deductible if we so, you know, if that ever comes up. There's an asset-based coverage. So the larger your asset base, they want us to have some assets reserved. I think it's 2%. 2%, you know, in case a pipe breaks under the canal or something like that. And then you've got expense coverage. And in this, I sort of take that as more, you might have a mismatch in revenues and expenses. So you want to make sure you got 90 days or whatever, you know, whatever that number
Do
is.
something with it.
Kim has it listed on the right-hand side here with the 3 months of expenses. Okay, so the question is, on an operating reserve, what are the viable options? Well, in my mind, and this is just me, I look at those things as probably things you want to be fairly liquid. You don't want to be in a financial crisis where the assets are down 50%.
And you can't do anything about it. Yeah, right.
So it probably makes sense that those assets could reasonably be stored in an FDIC insured deposit. It's not going to earn a huge amount of money, but it's right now it's 3.65.
That's true, but at least it's not sitting.
Could be in a government money market fund,
Mhm.
possibly a short-term government money market. A government bond fund, and this would be a year or less. Maybe it earns another 25 basis points more than the government money market. I don't feel strongly about this, and this group may want to just constrain us to just those two most liquid, safest sort of buckets.
Well, you need the availability of it.
You need the availability. I wouldn't recommend, and I don't think anybody else on here would recommend an asset allocation strategy,
Right.
which is going to be in equities and bonds and
No,
globally invested.
no.
And it wouldn't make sense to use what's called a cash matching strategy. So if this group can give Kim some guidance about whether, you know, at least for the operating reserves, we would be comfortable with the investment policy statement sort of focused on those first two options, I think that gives Kim a lot of leeway in actually writing that investment policy statement for this particular section.
Mhm.
And then as we move down to capital reserves, there's two different major
I'm sorry,
components.
so you're saying for that section,
Yeah, so
take out short-term government?
we could take that short term. I put that in there because it's currently in the investment policy statement. But I don't think we're going to get much out of it. And I don't think that Kim and Robin feel comfortable making those decisions anyway. So,
Okay. And it's a short term.
and the short term,
Adjust number, so adjust the 4, 5, 6, and 7.
or what we wrap up in this thing called operating reserves. And
Yeah.
so it would be, the investment options for that would be identical to the transaction funds when she writes up that section.
Oh, okay.
And then we move down to the capital reserves. And there's two components there. If you actually look at the formulas, you've got this short-term component, which basically is there to fund a portion of the projects that are going to happen in the next 2 years.
Mhm.
You know, it's sort of like in your house. If you think you're going to have a major remodel project coming, you probably don't want to put all those assets that you're pulling up for that in
That's
the
right,
stock
because you
market.
never know you need it.
So I think it would be reasonable to have those for that particular component, FDIC insured, or the government money market as well, highly liquid, you know, no variability in
Mhm.
value and all that.
Mhm.
We can get rid of the short-term government bond, get
Yeah,
that out altogether.
yeah.
But we had this second component of the capital reserves, and it's long-term. And it tends to be, the formula, I believe, goes out 5 years. And so these would be for a little bit longer projects.
Yeah.
And currently, if you read the investment policy statement, they are being done in an asset allocation strategy. So I have a check mark here in asset allocation. I actually I'm not real comfortable with that. Maybe to Calvin's point, you know, that isn't equity. Its value is going to go up and down. And it's not necessarily a problem that its value is going to go up and down. It's just whether there's a better option for those assets.
Because it's just sitting.
Because it's sitting there.
Mhm.
You could put it in the money market stuff and earn less return. But there's another option, and it's called a cash matching strategy. And we've talked about this multiple times here, and it is envisioned in the current investment policy statement. But the way a cash matching strategy works, and is highly used in the pension world and everything else, you have this liability that's a long term. Let's say the liability, I'm going to try to make this simple. Let's say the liability is in 10 years, I've got to put a pipe in the ground for $1 million.
Mhm.
If I can, is everybody familiar with something called a Treasury Inflation Protected Security?
No, I just deal with
Yes.
Treasury. I don't know what I mean.
These are the government put these out years ago, where you could you would invest your money in this, basically a bond of the government, and it could be up to, I think those things go out now 10 years, and they would guarantee that the maturity of that bond at the 10 years would be the face value plus whatever inflation
You
happened.
can't touch that money though.
Can't
Oh, it's a
you can
hedge.
you can
Oh, you
Yeah.
can?
you can touch it, yeah.
Oh.
So, but it's actually, I don't want to get technical on this stuff, but it's actually called a discount note. Normally when you buy a bond, you get this coupon. The way you get paid is every 6 months you get an interest rate will come. Discount notes are different. You put money in, let's say you put 800,000 in, and they promise that in 10 years, you're going to get $1 million back,
Mhm.
plus any inflation that happened. So you might say, okay, what the hell? So let's say this pipe cost $1 million. But that's $1 million in today's dollars. We really don't know what inflation is going to be
Well,
like.
no,
over-
because you never know present value, future
Yeah,
value.
that's right. So we don't know what the inflation is going to be in 10 years, but the government's going to guarantee that they'll cover the inflation differential.
Okay.
That's what's special about this
Okay.
instrument. It's called a TIP.
Right.
Treasury Inflation Protected Security. So you can take, so if you know you're going to be earning, I don't know, let's say, I'm not doing the math in my head, let's say 3% a year.
Mhm.
What they'll say is if you give us 700,000 now,
We'll give you
we'll give you
a
$1 million
million.
when that pipe is ready to be put in the ground,
Right.
and we'll also adjust it for inflation. So
Oh.
that's a cash matching. That's because it's a Treasury Inflation Protected Security. So that's a cash matching strategy. So
So that million is just a floor depending on the
That's right.
inflation. It
And
can be
you
much
add
higher.
up to,
Okay.
oh,
or
well,
if we got into a huge deflationary environment, you would get less
It's-
than $1 million. But it
yes,
would be
but
it
you
would
would
be
still,
they're guaranteeing the real value of the money, not the nominal value.
Yeah,
So in
Yeah.
that situation though, what you pay up front, is that gonna be higher or lower interest rate than you would normally, given the current market?
It's all about, everything in finance is about the return versus risk.
Yeah.
The negative on these inflation protected securities is because they take so much risk off the table.
and
There's no credit risk. There's no
Right,
inflation
right,
risk.
because it's so long
The,
term.
the return well, it's because it's government guaranteed is why there's no credit risk. It's not like you're getting this from IBM or Microsoft. And there's no inflation risk because the
Mhm.
government's guaranteeing they will make up the difference. And they use the CPI, Consumer Price Index, as their
Mhm.
inflation accelerator. I don't want to get into technicals. What I'm trying to give you guys is a flavor for what a cash
Okay,
matching
I got
strategy
it.
is.
Yeah.
You know you got an
We got it.
obligation coming years out.
Yeah, we got it. Got it.
But I was curious though. I have to remember. If today's market is, say, 5%, or 10-year bond.
Yeah.
But for this, it's gonna be not 5%, it's gonna be because you have a factor at the end of this thing. Is it gonna be like 4, 5?
Might even be one.
Okay.
See, but
It's gonna be less than 5.
it will be, but let's be clear. The interest rate on a normal treasury bond is what's called a nominal rate. You're going to get 5%, even if inflation was 10%.
Right.
Whereas this thing, what you're actually getting is not a nominal interest rate. You're getting a real interest rate. You're getting an inflation adjusted interest rate.
It's very
So what
different.
they're guaranteeing you basically is, let's say it's the market right now is 1.5% for this instrument. You're getting a 1.5% real rate of interest.
It's very different from the regular
Plus
interest.
whatever the
Mhm.
inflation rate over 10 years.
That's right.
Mhm.
Well, that's how you get to that real rate of interest.
Right, but if you were, okay, but you go today and get a 10-year bond over 5%. So.
Yeah.
But you get this for.
Yeah. And if inflation stays really low, you make out like a bandit.
You
If
get
inflation goes up, you're not. So the question this group has to determine is what risk.
Risk, how much
Is
risk
this
is gonna
worth it?
take?
It's not just what risk. When you actually get into risk, you understand there's different types of risk.
Of
There's
course.
credit risk. There's
Yes.
inflation
Yeah,
risk.
that's good.
There's all sorts of different types of risks.
And
And-
risk averse.
I'm not here to sell
Yeah,
inflation
we understand.
protected
We
securities.
agree.
What I'm trying to do is give you a flavor for how something like this works.
And
So-
if you don't need it, until.
And you diversify anyway, you put all the eggs in one basket.
That's right.
Throw some money in this thing.
And this is
Yeah,
where
and-
This is where if you have a long-term known liability.
Right.
So a big user of these types of strategies are defined benefit pension plans. They have made long-term commitments to their retirees.
Mhm.
So rather than throw all that money in equity market and hope that when those things come
Right.
due, what they actually do is an actuary will set up, they will literally say, next year you owe this much, the year after you owe this much, the year after you owe this much. And they will set up a cash matching strategy. A cash matching strategy will be set up by an investment advisor to meet those long-term liabilities. And it's a way to de-risk pension.
No, I understand it.
Makes sense.
So my suggestion here, and so I have two suggestions. First off, I think cash matching strategies are a very viable alternative for this particular type of reserve.
Mhm.
But rather than me explain it, if this group is comfortable at least going down this path, we could have an advisor or two or three come in and do a presentation on how they actually implement cash matching strategies and how it would typically work. UBS probably does it, and there's other firms that do it as well.
Could we, that's a good point, but could we determine what our needs are for 5-10 years out, what those pipes need to be in, and then.
Well, we actually have
Yeah.
that in our financial report with all of our capital projects.
Yeah.
Just give that
That's
to
what the
the,
capital projects
That's why
are.
we did that.
yeah, give them to the financial advisor and say, hey, what's your strategy for these long-term commitments?
I'm there to come and explain. Well, I don't speak for myself. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is another fallout of taking our
Yes.
modeling and going out 10
Go
years and
further.
having those things.
Taking it
fall out.
further.
Yeah.
I love it.
So the first thing is we get some people in to talk to us about their approach to cash matching. We can try to understand that better.
Well, you did a hell of a job explaining. I got it.
Well, I put some of these into work before, but I don't want this to be about my view.
No, I
We need-
understand.
yeah.
I understand. I understand.
When I was at Winter, I was on Winter Museum's finance committee and investment committee, and we basically cash matched their entire defined benefit pension plan, and it de-risked the whole. They had been watching that thing go up and down, under fund, over fund.
You give yourself a heart
And
attack. with
you
that.
have to see, you have to ask yourself as an organization, I'm in the business, they were in the business to run a museum,
Mhm.
not to manage market risk in a
Mhm.
defined benefit pension plan. You guys are in the business, we're in the business to deliver utility services, not to manage the risk that it might cost us, or we might not have the money to put in.
Mhm. But that's where the trust comes in.
And so secondly, when we're not there yet, but we need to have a conversation as we walk down this path of who's paying for this stuff. I've talked about this many times before. If you raise rates enough now that you start to build up to $700,000 to pay for that project, what you're asking is,
People
The current
understand-
users-
totally understand that concept.
yeah, so
You ask them the
So
current
this
users
actually-
to pay for
Yeah.
future.
we're walking down this path of having a richer dialogue for those types of conversations in the future. So I think that's another reason to kind
Because
of
that's a
think-
hard conversation to have.
It is, but it's,
I mean, I
in my
understand
mind,
it.
it's a little bit, once you sort of understand it, I think it becomes kind of clear.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's a difficult conversation to have.
The idea there, Carl, was if let's take this $1 million or 1 million gallon
Water
tank.
tank.
If the organization had been raising rates for the last 20 years to build up a pool of money to pay for that tank, I would say you're charging current users to pay for future users. And I don't think that's fair. Or I think a case can be made that's not fair. In other words, the tank is for the future, not for the past.
That's
So if you need money for the tank now for future capacity, you take a loan. And by taking a loan, the future users have to pay that loan off. But if you have people that are currently wearing out the equipment, you should be charging for not just how much it costs for the people and the trucks and all that, you should be charging for the wearing out of the equipment. In a public company, you would do depreciation.
Mhm.
And when you do an earnings, that earnings comes after depreciation because you're recognizing that things are being worn out along the way.
And you gotta take it from that, right?
So now that we have laid out the projects for the different utilities for the next 10 years, we can start to look at those projects and maybe make some rough approximations on what stuff is being worn out that we need to fund.
It was just have to find another, I don't understand what you're
Yep.
saying completely. Just to find another way to say it.
Yeah.
We've got to find a way to make people understand.
That's gonna be a hard
And
concept.
that's
if people
the-
understand.
That's the hard part. Exactly.
And
I
I
understand what you're
even-
saying, and you do
Yeah,
too,
I
but
get it too, but we want to
it's-
talk to John King Public about
no.
this, so to tell them why
No.
their rate's different than their.
you're paying for the future.
Yeah,
We even have projects of that we're replacing pipes, but we're also making them larger because there's more people coming in.
Yes.
So would you do partial
Yes.
of debt funding and then partial
Yeah.
of reserve funding?
Right.
And
Well, in the case of the water tank,
Yeah.
in fact,
Yeah.
that tank is going to provide fire protection immediately that it goes into service for all of Lewis that does not sufficiently exist at the moment with the one tower that we have.
Yeah.
And that's an argument that current people are benefiting.
Well, you
have
don't
to-
misunderstand what I said. I don't disagree with that. Someone has already made a decision. You have not had rates high enough for the last 20 years. You don't have this big pool of money. So it already is, what really is happening is it'll be the users of that tank from here on out that are going to pay for it. So I would say that already went down a path that was for the future. It turns out there's an overlap. There's a lot of people that have been using water for the last 20 years that are going to continue to use it in the next 20 years. But there's going to be new people, all these new neighborhoods and things. So that's a case that the assets were not raised ahead of time. They were raised as needed through debt. That's a debt offering. What I'm saying is you also have things that are being worn out in the ground, and you may want to raise money. In other words, charge enough in the rate that when those things wear out, you replace them. But that money, if you do create that fund, and that's envisioned in this long-term capital reserve, that is what the formula is. The question is, how should you invest that? Right now, it's being invested as an asset allocation strategy. So it's in equities and stuff like that. And I'm saying, if we're going to do a long-term component, in other words, we are going to raise some assets out of current users, I'm suggesting that we at least take a serious look at a cash matching strategy to invest those and not have them in an asset allocation strategy.
So when you say raise money from current users, how does that work in practice? What does that look like?
Well, it actually looks like it does right
That's-
now.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
When you look at the financial model, there's a formula for this long-term component.
I'm talking about someone that get the bill.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's just part of the, it's just the rate.
Yeah.
It's how that
That
rate,
you'll have to actually break out how it,
How we're putting it.
yeah, if it's wear and tear or if it's improvements,
And you're gonna allocate it
and
for
then what's debt. So
pool.
according to that, what should be debt funded, what should be reserve funded. And so if everything that we have labeled as reserve funded, we need this amount of money
For
in
that.
the account in the next 2 years and the next 5 years and the next 10 years, and then that's where the cash matching comes in.
Yeah, and let's be very clear. We already have this longer term component. And we have millions of dollars in this longer term component right now. So this is already happening. I'm trying to, now that we've pushed out our modeling of the
Right.
capital projects 10 years, I think we can think maybe a little bit more richly about what that how much money we want to raise in that capital reserve. And I think we should also redetermine how we want to invest that. I don't think the asset allocation strategy that UBS is running is going to serve us well.
No, that's not
So-
nice.
But we already are doing, this is not, this isn't like a new thing to do. The formula is not very rich, and I don't think it's really thought through. I think it's just a percentage of the historical asset base. We might be able to do better than that.
So let's go back to the investment policy. I mean, that's the kind of investment policy, a critical one, but who do you write investment policy?
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
strategy to write that. This is, we can have a discussion again.
Yeah.
When we start to get more detailed about what's in the investment policy.
So the investment policy is how we're investing the fund. I think what you're starting to go into is the cash reserve policy of how much we're reserving
Yeah.
to pay for projects. And if we're going down the road, let's go. But I also had a question of combining fund policies of instead of having an investment policy, a cash reserve policy, a minimum operating, a whatever, to have all one fund policy. I think right now it makes sense to take it one at a time and update them, but then to combine them as a fund policy. So any questions that you're going to have for cash management is going to be in this document. And then I just had a question on there of if we're happy with this layout that I started, to continue that layout with this conversation that we're having.
Mhm.
I don't have a strong view on whether it's all combined or not. The Children's Beach House, we separated them, but there's no, because they were written specifically for the endowment. I could see you having one policy with sections.
Yes.
Are you doing that
Technically-
fine?
Technically, right now, that they're separate policies, but they are part of a larger compilation of policies. So technically, they all fall under one, correct?
There is a compilation of policies, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it's already set up. There's an overall one, but I mean, it is,
It's not that you're just,
Yeah.
it's not that you're doing something different.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's just
each has its own
reorganized,
section. Yeah.
reorganized of fund sections.
Mhm.
We're doing it more clearly.
I don't see really distinction without a difference. I guess if you're talking about all these, whether it's on one policy with caption quarterly, different sections, or whether you have to break it out into different policies. Well, what's the purpose of doing that?
So, and the compilation of just reorganizing everything.
We can do one way or the other.
What's the benefit of it?
Anyway,
To have everything.
I believe that they are all grouped together, if I can recall correctly.
I remember there being like admin.
I
I have to look at it.
It's a massive document.
Stop looking in the sky and then up there. Oh, I have to look at it. Here they are.
let's go back to draft of the policy. I'm like, there's so many inputs here.
Yeah.
From a variety of different perspectives, right? You have the government, what's that called? government finance,
Cash.
officer,
Yeah.
officer association, you have the state, you have the,
You have Gatsby.
yeah, you have all this.
Yeah.
The thing here is that AI has become very powerful. Copilot become, Claude become, businesses are using it like crazy. Why don't we just throw all these various inputs into an AI model, Copilot, Claude, and prompt it?
And see what it does.
Prompt use everything, prompt it accordingly. But the thing is that you can continue to ask the question. If you don't use AI models, you can ask question after question after question, and refine the policy every time to where you get to where you want to be. And you can do that probably in an hour. And you're going to take days or weeks to do that. But they're getting all these inputs from various sources and figuring out what this looks like as a first step. Or you can decide to spend the next month trying to drive a policy or longer.
Do we have an understanding of what the best practices is for, municipal utilities?
Yes, that's where you go out and you go to the government.
GFOA, Government
Yeah,
Financial Officers Association.
And other associations. You go to, the state, pull in the code. You get all these inputs in, and you tell them.
What I'm talking about too, also about Lewis, coastal municipalities versus others, because we have different risks here than other people have.
Well, if you do the AI model, you can say, go out there and pull it, policies from similar situated towns across the country. And it'll go to the internet, it'll search for this stuff.
That's incredible.
And that speaks also to the cash reserve policy too, more than investment.
I guess what I'm suggesting as a first step,
Ask the
you'd be
question.
surprised what this thing will produce.
No, I understand. Yeah,
That's a first draft. And like anything else, you've got to look at it, you've got to challenge it.
but you got to be a little bit skeptical that it's not 100%, but it
Mhm.
definitely gives you a good initial draft. And
And business I use them all the time now, and it's a powerful tool. But you need the inputs, critical inputs, from the sources that might reference those other sources. It's something you can, a system, the tool, the model can do this faster than
And
anyone else, any human.
For the AI that we have now, it's just minutes that it can.
Correct, but I use ChatGPT to look at policies all the time. So
Yeah,
I can help you with that.
It's not chat,
Yeah.
GPT, this is more powerful than that.
And then I know Copilot, we had issues with our computers.
Yep. Our IT does not recommend Copilot.
That's because of IT issues, Copilot issues.
It messes some stuff up.
that's one way of putting it.
It's an IT issue.
I tried Copilot. Copilot to me was like not Copilot, it was a pilot.
Yeah.
I was not part of it.
You will follow it.
Yeah.
Copy is a key. It's useless if you don't have a problem.
Mm.
So that Claude's out there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Have you used Claude?
I have. Yeah. And a lot of times what I do is like I reference, so if I am looking at a policy that we currently have, I will actually provide the link to our website where you can find the policy. This is our current policy, and you compare it to the policy in Bethany Beach, and then it'll pull out some data for me, and I can review it and say, hey, this is what's different, and then verify it that way. I do that a lot.
Oh, that's neat. I like
Expand
that.
bridge to-
Yep,
to-
yep, and you just keep asking it questions, and it'll give you more and more as you keep asking.
Wow.
Right.
I like that.
I like
One of
that.
the things you do find when you look at investment policy statements, and I'm sure Kim and Sharon are going to find this, a lot of them are just written so legalese that when you read
Yeah,
it,
you
you're
don't-
sort of like, what the hell they even.
I
they
just got ready to say
The
that.
problem is gonna be once we all get it to where we like it, we send it over to, legal.
Mike Hoffman gets his hands on it. Oh my gosh.
I think everybody would agree. I think we should resist illegal. These things have got to be written so we can actually use
So
them.
Yeah.
everyone can understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Written in plain language.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the systems of AI will go out and look at best practices too.
They do.
You got to define what you are,
Yep.
what your services you provide, right?
Tell them to go get
The
it.
four utilities, your asset size, all that stuff. You got to provide all that basic information about who DPW so that it can then come back with, something that's workable.
They can probably, if you link it to the website,
Yep, they
Yeah.
usually pull a lot of that
they'll
data. in.
know all about us.
There's two ways to get to Copilot though. I mean, you can either download the software, or you could go.
IT says no, so I'm not going against IT.
No, or there's an internet page.
Yes.
A web base.
Mhm.
Yes.
So,
I
and
don't know about the
Oh,
web base.
a lot of the newer, like we use Dell equipment. It comes embedded into the hardware. Yeah, Copilot does.
Right,
But whatever is happening keeps crashing my computer, and I say okay, and then I can't work for 2 hours, so I'm not touching it.
Go to the internet, you can have it
Yeah.
on the computer.
Yeah.
And you can upload documents there.
Yeah.
You should probably investigate that.
That might be an alternative.
And just have them sit next to you, be good.
Do you see what happens?
Yes. You hear him?
No,
He already knows what to do and how to do
No, IT says no.
it.
So
So,
to
we'll ask
do
them
that,
about the
we'll have,
web-based and
we'll
then-
take everything that's in Mike's brain.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then we work through it.
You don't want everything in that discussion.
Kim, do you want feedback on this draft, or do you want to take another stab at it and bring it back? What do you want from everything?
So what's in here is a compilation of what was already in the policy and what Mike and I worked on, thinking about acceptable ways to invest the money of with risk and time periods. So that's what went into this.
That's what we did.
So and then there's other stuff that's highlighted with yellow with the
Mhm.
red font. It's just because I didn't get far enough with it, or like all transactions over X amount require 2 approvals.
Mhm.
Like what should be that threshold of fund management?
I think what you're saying is you're going to be working on this. You'll probably come back with a list of pointed
Yeah.
questions that,
Yeah.
that this group will have to answer.
And
it'll be
also
iterative.
with that, I'm sure some of the policies that we'll bring up will have what they require
Mhm.
of where that large transaction is defined.
So you got to put eyes back on it.
Gotcha.
One thing about the special purpose funds on this grid here,
Mhm.
it may always be that they'll always be FDIC insured and government money market, which is the 2 options we clicked here. But this would be a question for the group. Do we want to, when we have new special purpose funds that arise, should Kim come to this group and say, how should we invest these, or make sure that this group buys in? In other words, I'm not 100% sure we should always just suppose that those special purpose funds will always be just invested in those 2 options.
Yeah, true.
So
These
to come
2
back.
are, but
No, I agree.
Those are unusual circumstances.
they are very
Yeah.
unusual. So the question is, if she's writing a policy, is it the next time we get a special purpose fund set up, does Kim come to the finance committee to get approval for how that would be invested?
Is it-
Or come back
Well,
with a
at least-
recommendation.
Or come back with a
Yeah.
recommendation.
That's what I was going to say.
Is it
Right.
sometimes dictated when we're awarded these?
So we
special
can stay abreast of
funds,
it.
How it has to be?
Yeah,
That's it.
So like
Okay.
ARPA with government, it was you can make money on this, but you cannot lose money.
Okay.
And like with PFAS, I don't think there's too much except that you have to use it for
For
PFAS
PFAS.
related
When we
work.
go to spend it, okay.
But
Yeah.
those are strict.
But we don't.
But it
We're getting
doesn't-
this
But it
extra
doesn't
money,
really
we don't-
say about investing money until we're ready, okay.
But
But
when
but
you-
it could be in the future.
when you take on debt, don't you have to collateralize that debt? You don't have to? Okay. Okay.
So when we take on debt, we just we do it with the state, and they have their requirements of our debt coverage ratio and a certain percentage of affordability.
Okay, so as
For the
long as you meet
community.
those criteria, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's if we go, which is typically all we use is.
Yeah.
Would that differ if we use that loan through Fulton that we have? Or do they use the debt ratio?
The Line of credit.
Line of credit, that's what I meant.
The line of credit, it would, I guess that would be collateralized that we have to have our funds or
Or
everything coming through if we don't pay our bill.
Yep.
Sure, that's probably.
Oh, that?
Well, does that become a special purpose fund? In other words, is it another fund that's a collateralized pool for the line of credit? I'm just,
Yeah,
these are just trying to figure out how this would evolve.
yeah, and that, should that be mentioned of letter of, or line of
Mhm.
credit?
Mhm.
Or, well, I guess maybe not an investment. That would be more of use of funds.
And we always have to make sure the line, this is a different topic, but make sure the line of credit doesn't interfere with your state of Delaware obligations.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's where we're getting
Yeah.
too far out there.
Yeah.
We'll bring this back.
you know what the next cap is?
Me and Sharon are gonna hang out. and use some co-writing artificial intelligence.
Uh-oh.
You know that can help.
Yeah, and we're not gonna do anything outside of Josh is okay.
Who's
We
that?
don't wanna crash.
Or IT.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I just very say the same thing. Who the hell's?
Yeah,
He's an AI agent.
he's one of those guys.
Josh.
In about 6 months, we're gonna be answering to Josh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Item 6. Discussion of potential future agenda items.
Oh, that's to talk about. Okay, cool.
This is an ongoing,
Well, we got stuff that we just need to
We
continue
get
with.
first quarter draft.
Yeah.
Draft.
Yeah, so if we can have a meeting at the beginning of August, we'll have first quarter numbers. And then it'll be the stuff coming back with Interfi, the legal review, and some comparisons and writing of investment policy.
Debt policy. There was a question somewhere in what was distributed. There was a reference to reformulating a debt policy.
Well, if it's what I was suggesting a while ago, when I'm a little work, we should be very clear about how debt decisions to take on debt versus fund things, is made. And right now I'm not sure exactly who determines or how's determined when we're going to take on debt to pay for a project. That should be on the list. I look at that as we got to get through this, I think, stuff first, but I think there was a list of 5 or 6 things I put on a couple of months ago.
oh, also too, I asked if Waterworks has a model validation.
Yeah.
We follow them. Did you follow?
I did not.
If we're going to use their model, they've got to have a third-party validation of the model.
Can I mention 2 things?
Yes.
One is I know on the city's Economic Environment Resiliency Commission, Presley sits on there as an ex officio, and we talk a lot about coastal resiliency, mostly for the town, in-town, beach area, whatever. And he has raised in the past the elevation of your pump stations. And we are applying I think on Wednesday is the deadline for brick grants and other things, but it's going to come back again in the fall. And is that something that would run through this committee via an agenda item about to see?
I don't think it necessarily needs to come through this committee. I think we're already planning on the next go around, because I know we talked about stormwater project that they had put out, and then because we have a list of 5, which we actually have already got funding for pump station 6. The state said they'll go ahead and fund that one, and I think 17 and 34. So we have 3 more that we've already kind of got an idea, but it wasn't fully built out to that 60% that they were requiring on that engineering portion. So I think for that next go around, we will probably be applying for at least one of those pump stations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we also met with Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester a while ago with the Bay Beach communities, and this came up. Others had similar issues, not issues, but just,
Concerns.
joint concerns with their utilities about pump stations and other things. And she jumped on that, like, anything that's not just, that helps a larger swath of people as opposed to one isolated town like Lewis,
Yeah.
is much easier for her to secure federal funding for it. And so I just was just seeing if that's something, because I mean, these are joint issues.
Yep.
That representative of the city, why not, partner on some of these things if we can.
Yep.
The second thing I was going to mention regarding AI, I attended 2 meetings now with the University of Delaware and their AI in the state of Delaware's AI task force that is being formed, and folks from NVIDIA, the chip maker, have been running around the different states, and they've been pitching this idea of what they call their digital twin technology. Digital twin technology is, and trying to get states and municipalities and counties to embrace this, and they're gonna, there'll be fundraising involved, but mostly from the federal government right now. It looks like the federal government would be able to get a $3 million grant to kind of launch this. Digital twin technology, the best I can describe it, is taking 3D imaging that you'd see on your computer, like on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can see so much more. Apparently, you can see in the ground to a certain level. And you can see, and that would be really interesting to the city and I think BPW, because, hey, how high is our water table here? Where's our vulnerable areas for flooding? That it could save us years in understanding our vulnerable areas, but it also potentially could impact. You could see where your pipes are. I know you have maps, but really understand. And I asked this question, they're going to get back to me. Could you tell me how old that pipe is and what the condition of it is with this technology?
Wow.
And they think it can.
Wow.
But that's the kind of thing, and I just bring this up in the spirit of joint BPW, city cooperation. If in fact this continues to move forward, I would love to have somebody maybe join me at the next meeting that we have from BPW to kind of understand how this technology would assist in the BPW and your future planning.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent.
Did you say it's
Excellent.
through NVIDIA? Is that
NVIDIA is the company,
okay?
and the technology is called digital twin. You can just Google digital twin and you'll see how it works. And one of the founders of NVIDIA wasn't at the meeting, but he sent a video. And I mean, they're essentially running around the country trying to get states interested in this, and they're willing to almost give you the technology or at a discounted rate. They're just being good. They're trying to be good corporate citizens. But I know Jacksonville, Florida, and the University of Florida have already partnered on this, and there is some. We've requested, can we see what the result was of their collaboration and what Jacksonville was able to learn from digital twin. So
Wow.
that's the one first mover on this when it comes to municipality.
Is Danielle working with
Danielle Swallow?
Yeah.
She's not on this. She was not part of this. This was more, actually, ironically, Fabrice Ferrone, who was the dean of the school in Lewis, has moved on to become UD's vice president for research.
Okay.
And this is under his,
Okay.
so he was helpful in getting Lewis invited to this meeting because we were
Yeah.
the only
If you let us know-
municipality there.
Let us know the next meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I want to keep that, because that helps. That if we can somehow get access to this technology as a pilot or something, as one of the few municipalities, because we're the only one that was at this initial meeting. I mean, I just think if it's as powerful as they say it is,
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
You got that?
we could save ourselves years in understanding our age of our pipes, our vulnerabilities,
It's possible we don't.
wildfire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Vicinity.
Yeah.
We know within a square mile of where that is. Yeah.
That's close.
Or it's a 2.4 square mile.
Sometimes there's extra stuff down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's one for you. It could tell us, I believe. So we had a meeting with, we had someone from Genrec come. He's Sam Topper is his name. He heads up their wildfire. Lewis is at a huge risk of wildfire, much more so than other municipalities, which a lot of people would never think of.
Yeah.
You think of wildfires, you think of California, you think of, Canada and such. I asked the question, could this with the digital twin be able to show us if there was a fire that started in a state park, for example, or somewhere in the Phragmites, could it show us how that fire could
Travel.
travel? Yeah, and they said that's kind of what this technology is supposed to do, is predict with some margin of error, I'm sure, how things would work and,
Oh my God, this is
Yeah.
incredible.
yeah. I mean, but again, it's relatively new technology, but I view it just simply as if we could just save ourselves a ton of money and a ton of years, instead of if we could get advanced knowledge of what we think
Instead of
is
physically
going to happen.
running everything.
It's worth
Yeah.
it's worth.
I would be interested in going if I was able to. I don't know if you only have one slot or.
No, we're waiting. We're waiting to hear back on the next meeting. The last one was the mayor and I did a video with all of them, and then I went up to UD the next week. It was about a month ago, and they had a really nice at the Star Campus.
Yeah.
They had a really nice event. They had all day. I went for the reception, and they kind of shocked me because they asked me to go speak. I'm like, well, let me just tell you, as a municipality, we think this is really significant because it's going to help us, predict our vulnerabilities, help us, craft solutions. And I even mentioned, underground, we're going to be able to learn a lot of things.
That's incredible.
So we'll see.
So I don't want to take anybody's spot, but if there were enough spots, I'd like to let
Mhm.
them go. Sounds like it'd be something more for you guys to.
Absolutely.
No, but it's
Sounds like in this early stage, they want some,
Proof and
some examples.
Yeah, so cool.
Highly
Yeah.
sounds good.
Come on, you guys are such-
I will tell you, the reason we were invited, I found out later, the fact that we have a resiliency fund.
Yeah.
They saw that
Oh, yeah,
as,
yeah.
these guys are looking,
Being proactive.
being proactive. And so maybe they might be a good partner in wanting to, adopt or, utilize digital twin technology.
Look, if you get in early,
God, it
then you can
sounds
help, you can help
fantastic.
formulate what they're going to create with real examples. Maybe that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to use our technology, real life examples. What kind of problems you're having? How can we solve those? That's exactly what they're looking for.
Jump on
Yeah.
this one.
We'll see.
That's perfect. Get in early. Bring out those samples there.
Yeah, really.
Good information.
We got plenty.
Exactly.
Kim, I got two.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, boss.
We moved. Did the firm get approved that's going to do our cost of service study?
Yes.
And what was her name again? I can't remember.
The cost of service,
Yeah,
it's Waterworth
Waterworth, that was it.
and then Raftelis for backup for electric.
And then, did you confirm with them to do a 10-year instead of
Yes.
5? Okay. And then when do you actually start playing? I'm really interested to hear what you're thinking about the model when you get a chance to finally start playing around with it. But
It will probably be the beginning of July.
okay, so pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
One thing I think I mentioned too, and these typically with these software like this and these groups, they'll have user groups. Did you ask what their user groups do?
No.
I would be shocked if it didn't have a user group that you could tie into.
They do have like you can have unlimited users.
No,
on
I'm talking
the
about,
things,
yeah,
but-
no, I'm
Like,
talking
so you
about,
can talk to 20 other people that are in the same boat as you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, from that perspective.
yeah,
Okay.
20 people who.
So
who
like
use
a
it.
round table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I think that's critical too, because that network would help you tremendously.
yeah, I think he's right. And you share learning and all sorts of stuff.
It's been
Because
really
they've already implemented
Yeah.
the programs. They know the bugs, they know the problems, we'll help you.
Okay.
And
Hey,
they'll share.
Any
the
interest
ones that
in
they're-
moving
what
to
they're-
item
what they're-
7?
Yes, yes. Yes.
Trying to get us out of here.
motion?
Motion?
I make a motion, then you can be.
Oh, one other thing,
Oh, wait a minute, he just killed that. Get it out.
do our minutes, do these minutes of this committee go to the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, should I do it again?
I second Carolyn.
Thank you. It was okay.
All right.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.
But yeah,
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
11:28.
Thank you, Jeff.
appreciate it.
Right, some good news about this.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Learn, yeah.
Thank you. Don't learn.
I don't wanna